The outgoing U.S. President, Joe Biden, last few days in the White House for him, and he is set to address the American public for a final time tonight. He's preparing to hand over power to Donald Trump on Monday. Tonight, he will deliver farewell remarks from the Oval Office at 8 p.m. Eastern, and CBC News Network will have live coverage for you then. This morning, he's released a goodbye letter in which he talks about the privilege it has been for him to serve the United States, not just as president, but of course as senator, and to serve for the past half century. Let's bring in Chris Reyes, who's covering the American story for us today. Tell us more about what Biden writes in this letter, Chris.
Good morning, Heather. So we had the State Department address earlier this week. Tonight, as you mentioned, will be that final Oval Office address. And this morning, we had a letter. It's all part of a long goodbye for President Biden. The letter's not a long one, but I think it puts onto paper what we'll hear from him tonight. He opens by bringing Americans back to the moment when he was elected, called on, as he says, to restore America's soul after a pandemic, an economic crisis, and a tumultuous Trump presidency. Biden touted his legislative record in that letter, like signing the first major gun safety law in 30 years and lowering prescription drugs for seniors. We know he's very proud of that one. In fact, he attaches to the letter, Heather, a fact sheet of his administration's accomplishments, and he called on those facts to deliver a message about the economy that he's handing over to Trump. 16.6 million new jobs, wages are up, inflation is down, the racial wealth gap is the lowest it's been in 20 years. Where you really hear Biden's voice, though, in that letter is in the last paragraph, in the wistful last paragraphs, when he describes his humble beginnings as a kid with a stutter from a small town. Biden writes, "I have given my heart and soul to our nation, and I have been blessed a million times in return with the love and support of the American people." He ends on a rallying note, calling on the American people to keep the idea of America alive. He said there is simply nothing beyond our capacity when we do it together. And Heather, the big question is whether this will resonate with Americans, many of whom say they feel more poor and more polarized than ever before. And some even say they feel betrayed by this president that promised to be a transitional one, but really waited to the very last minute to pass the baton. And I think it's hard to deny that a part of his legacy will be that he was pushed out by his own party, and that questions about his mental fitness is still out there, hanging in the air.
Chris, thank you very much. Chris Reyes on what we anticipate tonight with the Joe Biden address from the Oval Office.